Breaking news, a New York grand jury has voted to criminally indict former President Donald Trump, according to anonymous sources who told the New York Times and CNN. Much of this indictment headlines has all been anonymous sources. Yesterday, we had anonymous sources saying that the grand jury was going to go on a month-long break before deciding whether to criminally charge Trump. Now, new anonymous sources are telling a completely different story, that he's actually going to be arrested in the coming days. So let's look at the New York Times here. Now, Trump had said, if more anonymous sources said that Trump said, if you're going to arrest me, you got to handcuff me, man, as kind of a protest. I'm not just going to, walk into surrender. So a lot of anonymous sources telling this story, but here's the New York Times. Breaking news just in the past half hour: grand jury votes to indict Donald Trump in New York. Mr. Trump will be the first former president to face criminal charges. The precise charges are not yet known, but the case is focused on hush money payment to a porn star during his 2016 campaign. The unprecedented case against Trump will have wide-ranging implications, New York Times says. A Manhattan grand jury voted to indict Donald J. Trump on Thursday for his role in paying hush money to a porn star, according to 5 people with knowledge of the matter. See, that's their actual source. It's just an anonymous source, but we're supposed to trust that it's 5 people with knowledge of the matter. Anyway, CNN is citing the same list of people with knowledge of the matter. Who knows what's really true? But everyone's running with this headline now. So we'll see. Time will tell. I guess New York Times saying in the next few days Trump is going to get arrested. New York Times goes on to say it's a historic development that will shake up the 2024 presidential race and forever mark him as the nation's first former president to face criminal charges. And my question in this, if he is going to be criminally charged, this would be a felony, the New York Times is saying, even though they don't know what he's going to be charged, what his charge is going to be. They somehow know it's going to be a felony. And I was just wondering, can a convicted felon run for president? Is this going to impact his 2024 campaign? And apparently, convicted felons can run for president. So this will not, regardless of what happens, he'll still be in the running for president. We're going to look at a little bit more on what he might be charged with and any reaction so far from Trump before we jump fully into it. Shout out to the sponsor of my coverage. Noble Gold Investments has made it their mission to stay on top of the most important economic news. 3 bank runs, you guys. 3 bank runs in less than a week. These are the second and third largest runs in history. The government is taking steps to guarantee all deposits. This means more money printing. Plus, the Fed is sitting on an unrealized loss of about $1.2 trillion on their $8.3 trillion bond portfolio. And the Fed will continue to raise interest rates even if they tank the economy. Do you know who are the only ones not afraid? The ones that are invested in gold with Noble Gold Investments. Gold is the most stable asset outside of any government control. Thousands have approached Noble Gold Investments to get their hands on gold. Hurry and go to noblegoldinvestments.com to secure your wealth now and get a free 5-ounce America the Beautiful coin with each gold and silver IRA. If you qualify, click that link in my description, which is ivoryhackergold.com. Of course, there's always a risk of loss with any investment, but I can tell you, I'm invested in the US dollar and it's tanking for me. So gold is where it's at. All right, checking your comments real quick. We are live today. Yeah, you guys are saying the weaponize the government against the people. This witch hunt has just escalated to an unreal level. Let's look back at this New York Times article real quick because I had highlighted something. They said, although the specific charges remain unknown, Mr. Bragg, the Attorney General, his prosecutors have zeroed in on that hush money payment and the false records created by Mr. Trump's company. A conviction is not a sure thing. An attempt to combine a charge related to the false records with an election violation related to the payment to Ms. Daniels would be based on a legal theory that has yet to be evaluated by judges, raising the possibility of that a court could throw out or limit the charges. Good grief, they're grasping at straws and trying to come up with a very creative way to combat Trump. Now, New York Times is just updating this story just rampantly as I'm covering it. You can see an update 2 minutes ago, an update 4 minutes ago. New York Times saying the White House officials declined to comment at all on the indictment of Trump, continuing to keep the investigations of Joseph Biden's predecessor at a very long arm's length. Mr. Biden has vowed to maintain the independence of the Justice Department during the Trump inquiries. Oh, the Justice Department is independent. Interesting. Avoiding the kind of interference and bullying of investigators that was a hallmark of the Trump presidency. And then 4 minutes ago, New York Times had this update, quote, the Justice Department has no comment about the Trump indictment, but the decision by Alvin Bragg, the Manhattan District Attorney, to bring a case that has been met with some skepticism and not a little trepidation in federal law enforcement circles. Senior officials believe the New York case is the weakest of the pending criminal investigations into the former president. So out of all the witch hunts, this one's the weakest. Well, the one out of the ones that are currently pending. Yeah, this is the one that's going to have him jailed, perhaps. They said, quote, there are concerns that the public might conflate the Bragg probe with the special counsel Jack Smith's dual-track investigation into Mr. Trump's efforts to remain in office after losing the 2020 election and his role in instigating the events of January 6th. So many witch hunts happening against him, and they just laid out a few of them. Checking your comments here. Let's look at what President Trump is saying on Truth Social today. Let's look at his Truth Social. He posts very frequently there, but let me give you a look. So far, actually, no update from Trump since this news broke that he will likely be taken into custody, have a mugshot taken. New York Times spelled this out, that he will likely have to get fingerprinted and have his mugshot taken at the courthouse. And it's unclear whether he'll be handcuffed. They talked about how most criminals, felony criminals have to be handcuffed behind their backs. But sometimes when it's a white collar criminal who's less of a threat, they'll be handcuffed in front. Anyway, I'll show you what Trump allegedly said about that. But here is his current Truth Social. He hasn't posted in 3 hours. This is the last thing that he posted, which was a request for donations for his campaign. But he posted this video with
China, Russia, Iran, North Korea, and other nations of less than friendly nature are busy carving up the world as our once great United States of America sits back and watches. We are a failing nation with open borders, fake elections, and a horrible inflation-riddled economy. We no longer set the standard sets us. Our so-called leader does nothing. He's absolutely asleep at the wheel. Where have you gone, Joe DiMaggio? Where have you gone?
So that's what he posted 3 hours ago. Hasn't posted since this news just broke that he's being indicted. One of you guys said, quote, he's on the run. That's why he hasn't posted. He's physically running. Have you guys seen the deep fakes of Trump actually getting arrested? Be very careful at this time in 2023. You really don't know what you're looking at, whether it's true or false these days, because artificial intelligence is getting so good. Like, I tweeted out this fake picture of Trump's arrest. Look I mean, it's comical to think that he would fight back like that, but you can see him sprinting away from police, wrestling with them, trying not to get arrested. But it's a completely fake image. My comment section, someone shared another artificial intelligence. They said, I think this one's real. A picture of Trump in prison. There he is in federal prison. He's whipping into shape now that he's in prison. But again, of course, this is a completely artificial intelligence image. In that one, you can tell more. He looks like a video game character. But obviously, this is pretty, very shocking, unprecedented story developing right now. I want to show you. Okay, so I want to show you this article about Trump saying, you better handcuff me if you're going to dare to arrest me. Put me in cuffs. I dare you to cuff the former president. The Guardian saying Trump wants to be handcuffed for court appearance in Stormy Daniels' case. Source says Trump has told advisors that he wants to be handcuffed when he makes his appearance in court if he is indicted by a Manhattan grand jury for his role in paying hush money to adult film star Stormy Daniels. Multiple sources close to the former president have said, look at this trend. That's their source. Multiple sources close to the president. Everyone covering this entire grand jury ordeal, it's all anonymous sources. What if this isn't even real, you guys? The indictment was filed under seal, according to New York Times, meaning normally court reporters such as myself could go on to we could go to Pacer right now, which is the website where you can see federal court records, and you could look up this indictment, but it's under seal, so therefore we can't see the indictment. We have to take 5 anonymous sources' words for it, and whether it's 5 or 0 actual sources, we have to trust the New York Times. But anyway, so it says here, the Guardian saying that the former president has reasoned that since he would need to go to the courthouse and surrender himself to authorities for fingerprints and a mugshot anyway, the source said that he might as well turn everything into a spectacle. Trump's increasing insistence that he wants to be handcuffed behind his back for a perp walk appears to come from various motivations, including that he wants to project defiance in the face of what he sees as an unfair prosecution, and that it would galvanize his base for his 2024 presidential campaign. I mean, why would you surrender yourself without cuffs if you're innocent, right? I would probably do the same thing as Trump. I dare you to cuff me. And I think this is going to bring support to President Trump in his campaign for president. I think that all the witch hunts against him during his run in 2020, his run for 2020, galvanized support behind him. And it was, I believe, 11 million more votes that he got in 2020 than he got in 2016. So his base came out in support of him dramatically more in 2020 compared to 2016. That is after a huge list of witch hunts. I think every witch hunt, his supporters say, oh, I better show up at the polls. He needs me. So I think that this will actually bring more support to him. And the fact that he had that much of a landslide, more votes for himself in 2020 versus 2016, and Biden still beat him by that much more, getting more votes than any president in history, Biden of all people, you can connect the dots on how real the 2020 election was. How believable is that? Yeah. Those are my little thoughts. So I just want to show you how much the news from today has changed compared to the news from yesterday. Let's look at Politico. Just 24 hours ago, this was the headline: Manhattan grand jury set to break for a month. A previously planned hiatus would push back a potential indictment for the former president. Politico saying, quote, the Manhattan grand jury examining Donald Trump's alleged role in a hush money payment to a porn star isn't expected to hear evidence in the case for the next month, largely due to a previously scheduled hiatus, according to a person familiar with the proceedings. Again, anonymous sources, no matter what outlet you turn to, everyone's citing anonymous sources, some person familiar with the proceedings, just familiar with it. I'm familiar with the proceedings as someone who's reading the news right now. So, should I call up Politico and give them a tip that something else is happening? And will Politico publish it? I mean, what kind of journalism is this these days? But anyway, this is what we have to go off of in regards to Trump. And I think all these headlines are just galvanizing support for him, honestly. But I just think it's interesting that 24 hours ago, Politico is saying that they hadn't even seen the evidence yet, isn't expected to hear evidence in the case for the next month. Now they've heard the evidence and they're planning on getting him arrested. So they filed the indictment. So how reliable are these anonymous sources? That's my question. Why'd they give it a seal? I mean, he sings good, but is he a lawyer too? Why'd they give it to seal? Yeah, I don't know why. Oh, you're making a joke about the singer seal. Yeah, it's sealed. The indictment is sealed. So, it is pretty crazy. Just checking your comment section. All right, so President Trump, this is the last thing I was going to share with you guys. He posted something about this yesterday. He addressed this issue of his potential arrest yesterday on his Truth Social. I'll show you what he shared. He actually retweeted a Quinnipiac poll. It says, do you think the Manhattan DA's office involving their case involving the former President Trump is mainly motivated by politics or mainly motivated by law? 62% of respondents believed it was motivated by politics. It is a political witch hunt. The vast majority of respondents said, and Republicans responding said so in a landslide. 93% of Republicans believe that this is a political witch hunt. Just 29% of Democrats believe that this is a political witch hunt. When it's broken down by age, it doesn't matter what age the person is, from 65 plus to age 18, people kind of evenly thought that this was motivated by politics. And then it's the same, broken down by race. It is also very similar, although Hispanics and whites totally agree. Blacks are just about 5 percentage points behind in thinking that it is politically motivated. So, most people think that. And then the other thing he tweeted is that he's actually gained huge ground on DeSantis, because I think it was a year ago that polls started to show that DeSantis would actually beat Trump if the primary were to take place at that time. Well, DeSantis, there's been a lot of smear pieces against DeSantis and conspiracy theories against him lately, and it's actually working. Apparently, Trump between all the hit pieces against DeSantis and then the persecution of Trump, because it's right-wing people who are doing the hit pieces against DeSantis, so they're reaching the base that would vote for DeSantis directly. So it's actually working to dissuade people against DeSantis. Between that and then the leftist media doing its witch hunt against Trump, which actually galvanizes Trump's support for him, Trump has gained huge lead against DeSantis. Here's the Fox News poll. Donald Trump, 2024 presidential nominee preference among Republican primary voters. Trump would get 54% of the vote. DeSantis would only get 24% of the vote. Mike Pence would get 6%. Liz Cheney would get 3%. What Republican is voting for Liz Cheney right now? Nikki Haley would get 3%, and Greg Abbott would get 2%. I didn't know Greg Abbott was running for president. Am I missing something? He's my governor here in Texas. So that's compared to just February, a month ago. Trump would only get 43% of the vote and DeSantis 28%. So just in the past month, Trump has gained huge ground. So I bet that big jump in support is likely due to this witch hunt against him. Unprecedented level of witch hunt where now it's true that according to anonymous sources, it's true that he's now going to be mugshot taken, fingerprinted, and perhaps handcuffed. Now, New York Times is saying he would likely be released from custody right away after getting that, just the official mugshot take, his arraignment, but they're not going to put him behind bars, is what the New York Times is saying. And they also added a little blurb about 2 weeks ago, Trump falsely predicted his arrest. That's literally a line in the New York Times article. I'm like, wait, how did he falsely predict his? Because now you're literally saying he's going to be arrested. So I think he accurately predicted, but I guess they're saying that he didn't predict the exact date right that he would be arrested. But I just think it's funny that New York Times always has a way to sneak in a line about how Trump said something false. So what the heck, man? Interesting stuff. So you're saying small hand syndrome. Who has small hands in this primary? Does DeSantis have small hands? I haven't looked. Is that why he's not beating Trump right now? This is crazy. We'll see if anything actually happens, because even the New York Times is saying this is a really weak case against Trump in regards to Stormy Daniels. This New York Times story even said he would likely not get convicted. He would get charged. He would have to go through this big old trial, and then the conviction would fall through because the evidence is flimsy. There's not really evidence. And Trump has said the Stormy Daniels thing is something that's been debunked. So again, just a ridiculous witch hunt, it appears, to hurt his campaign, in that he would never actually get convicted. But even if he did get convicted, he can still run for president as a convicted felon. So that's interesting. So there you go, you guys. I just thought I'd update you guys really quick on this breaking news. We will see in the next few days. They said maybe in the next 3 days he may get charged. We'll see what happens. But my point was that there's going to be a lot of tension in the air in America. There's going to be a lot of fear of riots. How much is Trump's support base going to physically make their case heard? Would this lead to civil war? People are scared. And Trump, when he first announced this, he said that people need to fight. Let me see. I posted about this. Trump's response when he predicted that he would be arrested 2 weeks ago, he said, quote, "Protest, take our nation back," all caps. So he's begging his support system to take the streets. And will the protests turn violent? So there's fear in regards to how much violence could come out of him getting arrested in something that seems so obviously to be a witch hunt. Even the New York Times saying there's not enough evidence to convict him. So we will see if the witch hunt is that important to the Attorney General that he is willing to create a violent riot out of this. Maybe he wants that more opportunity to make right-wing people look bad, like they're violent offenders. Who knows? Maybe this is all their plan. Interesting times. We'll watch and see how this evolves. Thanks for tuning in. I will be doing my Truth Bombs podcast live in person tomorrow with another former TV girl. Former TV girls unite. We're about to talk about everything we weren't allowed to talk about when we were muzzled in the corporate news. So you don't want to miss Truth Bombs tomorrow. Thank you for tuning into this. Please like, share, subscribe, and comment. It will help my YouTube. I appreciate it. See you guys tomorrow.